Hey guys, I think we are ready for our first assignment and I wanted to create a tutorial that was easy to understand. So I just figured maybe it's easier for you guys to see me explain and then of course if you have questions, feel free to ask. Let me minimize myself and show you guys the instructions. So first of all, it's a two-page written assignment, and I know it's a lot of writing and it might be a little bit confusing to understand. So let me try my best to explain. Our assignment one is a group presentation, and you're probably thinking, how is that going to work given the fact that we can't see each other face to face? Well, I'm going to have you guys do video editing using video editing tools, put a presentation together. So it's very possible that you guys might create a Zoom meeting for your group members, and then as you are creating the meeting, you share your screen and you present in that way. Other group members like to do their own speaking parts separately, and then they put it together in one bigger presentation. There's really very cool programs like Adobe and Adobe video editing that helps you put together videos. Zoom is pretty good too, and then of course there's YouTube, which I really like YouTube. I put most of my videos on there just because it's easy to share a link, but then also YouTube has subtitles embedded in the videos, and you can select that, so it'll just be easier for people to understand your presentation. To be honest with you, I am extremely open-minded about which tool you end up using. Maybe just let me know if you're going to use some funky tool that I've never heard of before, and it should be fine. Now, that's how you present as a group. Now, the communication is really going to be up to you guys. You're going to have to communicate with each other through email, through FaceTime. I don't know, what do you cool kids use nowadays? TikTok messages? You can do that too. It doesn't matter to me your method of communication as long as your communication is consistent throughout this assignment. What's the purpose? We are trying to convince or persuade our audience. Now, what are you trying to persuade them to do? Well, you are trying to convince your audience that an advertising campaign is either successful or weak. That's the ultimate goal. It's tough to do this, so I thought I would just break it down into easy to understand steps. Now, why I'm having you guys do an oral presentation is, first of all, I like the collaborative element of these presentations. I feel like even though our class is not meeting in a physical classroom, we can still communicate with one another, we can still interact with one another, we can still create a community, and it'll just be a more worthwhile way of doing this assignment. I've had this be an essay before, but essays end up being so detached. But when it's a presentation and the rest of the group members are responsible for watching it and for evaluating it and then responding to it, it just kind of puts you into the presentation a lot more. Basically, it's also part of our critical thinking skills, because critical thinking isn't just displayed through your writing, it's also displayed through your speech. How well can you debate? And I think that's the challenge of this presentation. The topic overall is about advertising, and I chose advertising because if you think about it, what's the goal of advertising? The goal is to either convince or persuade you. To convince you, if it's an idea-based advertisement, they're trying to convince you to change your lifestyle, like anti-smoking ads, or to persuade you for you to go out and buy the product that they're advertising, like, I don't know, Colgate toothpaste. So a lot of these companies, when they create these marketing strategies, it doesn't succeed. And I don't mean succeed in terms of, their economic wealth, because there are some very wealthy companies that are doing very well, but then the campaign that they release might not be very successful. And I just want to clarify what that means. If I'm a giant of a company like Amazon, okay, I'm making a lot of money every day. People use Amazon on a daily basis, but that doesn't mean that every single advertisement Amazon releases is going to be rhetorically strong. So our job is to approach these advertisements in a critical way. We're looking at their argument. We're not looking at how much success the company has, Of course, these two things do sometimes go hand in hand. Like, if a company has a very successful advertising campaign, their sales can skyrocket. But that doesn't mean that the campaign itself, just because the company is rich or happens to be doing well, doesn't mean that the campaign is rhetorically strong. So I do want to just kind of like give you a heads up that some campaigns, I personally think they're rhetorically weak. Nike is probably famous for most of its campaigns. Like, they have very moving, emotion-based campaigns. But a lot of their advertisements that they release, I personally feel that they are rhetorically weak. The reason for that is because I feel like the commercials are so far separated from the products that they are selling. And the commercials basically appeal to a very specific clique. So it doesn't necessarily appeal to everyone. They have they have kind of like a certain group that they're targeting, and that's fine. And some people might argue that that's effective. But the fact that there's very little given about their products, I don't find that to be as successful. For example, I'm going to be devil's advocate. A lot of people like the Colin Kaepernick ad campaign that Nike released, but I didn't think it was rhetorically strong. The reason for that is the product that Nike is selling and the position that they took in that campaign had nothing to do with one another. It was a non sequitur. So it wasn't quite rhetorically strong for me, even though the pathos might have been amazing. So I do want to kind of like throw these little examples out there just to maybe get the wheels turning, and just so you can see that just because an advertisement is popular and it's on TV and it's widely circulated in our audiences, it doesn't mean that it's going to be rhetorically strong. A rhetorically strong campaign is going to have very specific techniques that are all working together in a strong way. And I'm going to go over those techniques. So, pathos, logos, ethos, composition, and style. Now, there's other elements too that we went over, like purpose, like author, like target audience. All of these together create the rhetorical strength or weakness of a particular advertisement. So, let me just stop for a moment, and before going over the steps of your presentation, just clarify what a campaign is. What's the difference between an advertisement and an advertising campaign? So an advertising campaign is a series of ads that a company releases. So if I'm Nike and I release a quality campaign, let's say in the year 2017, that would include a series of commercial and print and billboard ads that I'm releasing. So it's kind of like the marketing periods, so each period is a campaign. For example, Coca-Cola releases their polar bear campaign every Christmas time, and they create new ones. So Christmas time comes, and the polar bear family campaign appears on TV, appears on billboards, appears in print advertisements like in magazines and online ads. So that's what I wanted to show you guys, that a campaign might be a series of ads that a company releases in a given period. And it's not going to be a given period, like it can't be from different decades, because that's not a campaign. A campaign is going to be seasonal, or it's going to be yearly, depending on how often these companies release their advertisements to, mainstream media. So ultimately, your group has to choose a campaign that you guys think is rhetorically strong or rhetorically weak. And your job in the presentation is to defend your position. And no matter what comes along that challenges your position, you want to defend it. And that's ultimately what makes a really good presentation that has strong critical thinking skills. The presentation I put as a 10-minute mark, it might be more, honestly, because if you give each person, a little bit of time to talk, let's say each person is responsible for 3 minutes, you're basically done with your presentation. Also, the 10-minute time slot includes the time it takes to play your commercial ads. Commercial ads range from like 30 seconds to 2 minutes. Some of those really long Super Bowl ads are longer than like 3 minutes. They're like a mini movie. So it might take up a lot of your time. So consider the fact that I'm not asking for a whole lot when I say 10 minutes, because it also includes the video time that you're going to be using in that whole 10-minute countdown. And throughout your 10 minutes, this is what you're covering. And I wanted to go over all of the steps that I'm requiring for this presentation. So let's begin with step 1. It just makes sense for you to start with step 1 and start with an introduction of the ad campaign that your group has chosen. In your introduction, you should also, touch upon your group's thesis. Like, what's the position you guys are taking? Are you defending the campaign? Are you critiquing the campaign? Contextualize it. Like, for example, when was this campaign released? Who stars in it? Are there like famous celebrities that are in the campaign? What's the purpose of the campaign? Is this company trying to, convince us of an idea? For example, BMW typically sells products, right? They sell cars, but sometimes BMW releases an ad campaign where they're advocating for an anti-drinking and driving lifestyle. So it just shows that BMW is, taking their position seriously, and they're trying to help us maybe also change our lifestyles, not just by the products that they're asking us to buy. So the purpose, the author, that would be the company releasing the campaign. The target audience might vary. The worst thing that you can say in your presentation is that the target audience is everyone. Oh my gosh, that is going to be frustrating. There is no target audience that's everyone. That would be like a very, very weak marketing strategy for a company to use. It's not going to be everyone. It has a target audience. Typically, if you're thinking about like video games and advertisements for video games, just, the demographics of that, video game players are mostly male, and they are mostly a certain age range. We're talking about teenage years to mid-20s. So sometimes these advertisements that are released by the video game companies, they're targeting that specific audience. And all of that will go into the background information of the advertisement. Now I'm going to stop here. This is step 1, and our second video will cover the rest of the steps.